Is your library a chaotic mess? Is it sucking up valuable time you could be spending on your decks? After 20 years of DJing, I had over 9,000 tracks and hundreds of playlists. It was impossible to find anything. But then I made a huge decision. I deleted everything. I wanted to start fresh with a brand new system. Now my library is more organized than ever, and I've turned hours of music management into minutes using just 5 simple steps. Whether you're starting from scratch, cleaning up your existing library, or just want to find music faster, this video's for you. I'm going to show you how to find high quality music, handpick the best tracks for your library, create a lightning fast tagging system, transform your library into a creative powerhouse, and keep your music collection fresh and up to date. There are 1,000 different places to get a coffee, but I bet you have a favorite shop. Maybe their coffee tastes better, is on your way to work, or they just have better croissants. There are also loads of choices for where to get the music for your sets. But because there's so much choice, it can quickly get overwhelming, costly, and time-consuming. When I started sourcing music for my library, I had 3 clear goals. I wanted to get better music in less time. Quality was more important than quantity, and I wanted to reduce risk. More on that in a bit. If you're starting from nothing, record pools like Zip DJ or BPM Supreme are a great way to quickly beef up your library. You pay a monthly subscription and then can download an unlimited number of tracks. DJ pools give you high quality files and often DJ friendly edits or even stems. They also have curated lists of tracks you can use to quickly prepare for certain events. But there are a few downsides. Different pools cater to different music types, so you need to invest some time choosing the one that's best for the type of music you play. Legally, they're only supposed to be for promoting new music, so if you're after older tracks, you might have to try elsewhere. I mainly mix drum and bass, and none of the DJ pools I tried had a good selection of more underground tracks. For me, DJ pools are out, but depending what you play, they're a great solution for many DJs. Finding unique tracks not available on full release is a great way to stand out in your sets. An easy and free way to do this is using sites like SoundCloud or Hypedit. In exchange for a few social media gratifications, you can grab exclusive edits and bootlegs for free, often from well-known producers. And if you're lucky, they might even be properly mastered. Even though I haven't played trance for about 8 years, I'm still, for some reason, on a promo list that regularly sends me new releases. I got onto this list because I had a fairly popular trance podcast back in the day, but getting on these lists is harder than listening to an entire tech house set. In fact, only 19% of you had managed to get on one. If you've got some kind of following or play out regularly, you're more likely to be able to get on these lists. The artists and labels are looking for DJs that can promote their music to a big audience. If you aren't on one yet, there are some things you can try. One of the best things you can do is interact with artists you like and labels on social media. Don't just fake it though, only engage with music that you actually like. I know many DJs who get exclusive tracks from artists just because they've supported them for a long time on social media. Give value, get value. Streaming services like Tidal, SoundCloud Go, or Beatport Streaming have made DJing affordable and accessible. You get access to millions of tracks for a small monthly fee. And it's been the main way that I've been getting my music for the last few years. But that's changed. Along with the huge selection of music, you can stream tracks in high quality and quickly find new releases. And like record pools, there's loads of playlists to quickly give you ideas for tracks and sets. They're also a lifesaver if you take requests from drunk people at events. But there's some big risks. These services can remove tracks at any time. And besides a hacky version of Beatport on CDJ 3000, streaming on club gear is usually not feasible. You obviously need a solid internet connection, which is in short supply at most gigs. Some streaming services do offer more expensive plans that let you save streaming tracks offline for a period of time, but this obviously comes at an additional cost. Streaming music sounds great value at first, but there's a few other things to think about if you're DJing long term. In the worst case scenario, these services can simply decide to stop supporting DJing. We've seen it in the past with Spotify, and if they don't turn off altogether, they can turn off certain features. Recently, Tidal removed the ability to use stems in all DJ software without warning. I still use Tidal to try out tracks I might like to buy, but personally I'm now trying to move away from streaming. Where do I go if I want a loaf of bread? I go to the supermarket because I don't like to support small businesses. The most obvious place to buy music is the stores that sell it. Beatport, Juno, Bandcamp, and countless others offer huge catalogues of music for you to buy, download, and keep. Using the charts on these websites is also a great way of staying on top of the most popular tracks and making sure your sets sound exactly like everyone else's. Have a think about your long-term goals to decide which of these sources is best for you. I've created a quick worksheet you can use to help you decide. The link is in the description. Have you ever met someone at a party? You chat for hours and you get along great. You swap numbers and arrange to go for a coffee. You order your usual extra hot flat white with oat milk, 5/19 of a shot, and 4 atoms of caramel syrup. You sit down.
I'm actually into goat herding, progressive gabba, and vacuum core.
You have nothing in common. That's why it's essential to introduce a curation system. It's like a bouncer for your music library. As I'm listening to new tracks on Spotify, I put them in a special shortlist. You can do the same thing with the Beatport basket or just favorite tracks. The next part of the system is really easy, but don't skip it. Just wait 24 hours. Do not listen to the track again. The next day, with fresh ears, have another listen all the way through. Then ask yourself 3 simple questions. Do I still like the track? Would I play it out? Would I pay money for it? If you can't answer those 3 questions easily, it's a sign it shouldn't be in your library. As a bonus tip, also try listening to it on different speakers if you can. There's been loads of times when I've heard a track that sounds great in headphones, but when I hear it on my speakers, it sounds like... Your DJ library is your biggest asset, and you should protect it with security guards, CCTV, and dogs with lasers coming out their eyes. But having awesome tracks in your library is worthless if you can't find them again when you're planning or playing your sets. I hate booking holidays. The problem is there's so many different ways of thinking about where you want to go. How hot will it be? Do you want a sightseeing or a beach holiday? How many bed bugs does the hotel have? For some people, budget is the most important thing. For others, it's how close it is to the airport. Or for me, it's how watered down their beer is. That's why trying to describe your ideal holiday is so hard. In the same way, how I describe my music is going to be different to how you do. It's why many DJs struggle to get their music organized in the first place. But having a properly tagged music library that makes sense to you is the best thing you can do to level up your sets. I'm going to show you the 3 steps I use to categorize my tracks quickly. With each added step, your library becomes more powerful and more personal. You don't go to a trance night and expect to hear hip-hop. Genres and subgenres are a really useful first step for categorizing your music. It helps you understand what tracks might sound good together, and usually whether they'll be around the same BPM. But many DJs I hear from are worried about getting subgenres wrong, and they get stuck. I want to propose a different way of tagging them that will help you get over that hump. The default genre tag in most DJ software only lets you choose one option. But what if my track fits in one or more of these different subgenres? I've got LK here, which is kind of a liquidy vibe, but it's also something I play at peak time, and it's also an anthem. For that reason, I only use the genre field here for that overall genre rather than a subgenre. For subgenres, I do something a little bit different. I use tags. The big benefit of tags is you can use more than one. A track can be liquid, it can be a roller, and it can be jump up all at the same time. I've done a full video on tagging your tracks that I'll link to in the description, but I'll show you quickly how to set it up in Rekordbox. Click on the tag icon on the right hand side. To set up your subgenre tag, double click on one of the headings. Give this heading a name like genre, and then create your list of subgenre tags by clicking the little plus icon and then typing them out. Now, to tag LK correctly, all I need to do is click on it and then choose the relevant subgenres. This can then be used in filters or smart playlists to organize your tracks. But subgenre alone isn't enough to create a cohesive set. There can be massive variety in tracks even within the same subgenre. That's why we need to add our next level of categorization. The best sets have highs and lows and contrasting moments. Playing a whole set of bangers is going to exhaust the crowd, and playing a whole set of warm-up tracks will send them back to the womb. Level 2 of our tagging system is designed to help us control energy. In my old library, I used tags for energy. It was better than nothing, but I found it hard to use during a set. There was too much reading. I wanted a more visual way of doing it. There's a field in Rekordbox that many pro DJs hijack for this purpose. It's the rating field. Using this is simple to set up. Make sure the column is showing in Rekordbox by right-clicking on the heading and then choose rating. Then all you need to do is map the amount of energy to a star rating. Low energy is 1 star and high energy is 5 stars. The cool thing about it is you can actually do it straight from the playlist view just by double-clicking. And if you play on CDJs, rating is highly visible and accessible on the screens. But bear in mind, if you use streaming tracks, you can only rate them once you've added them to a Rekordbox playlist. Have you ever heard a track and thought this would sound great at a beach bar? Then your friend hears the same track and goes, "You're crazy. This would sound better at a brothel." Level 3 is where we start getting personal. It's all down to vibe. There's no right or wrong way to tag a vibe, but here's a framework I like to use. How does the track make you feel? What does it remind you of? Where would you play it? When would you play it? Why would you play it? And who would you play it for? Our music library is now so organized it will make a librarian weep with joy. You should now be able to find tracks in seconds in a way that's personal to you. But our goal as DJs isn't to organize, it's to be creative. You might think having a structured music library is going to stop you being creative in your sets, but it's actually the opposite. If you've ever needed to buy something boring like a toaster, you might have experienced this. You go online and there's literally hundreds of different options, different prices, features, colors, brands, reviews, and shipping costs. You spend hours comparing them all until you give up and just have cereal instead. This is a phenomenon called the paradox of choice. Because an organized library gives us some constraints, it's actually easier to be creative within those constraints. There's a few extra ways I've set up my library to help me be more creative. One big element missing from my original library was DJ tools. These are things like samples and acapellas you can use to add extra spice to your sets. Stems now mean you can do acapellas on the fly, but the quality isn't quite there yet. I still like to have a list of go-to vocals that I've pre-prepared. If there's an acapella that works particularly well with a track, there's a way to get Rekordbox to remember it. Here, I've got my acapella loaded on deck 1 and my track loaded on deck 2. To find the matching track function, click this little left-facing arrow up here on the waveform. Click the two intersecting circles. This creates a relationship in Rekordbox between the two tracks. I'm going to unload the acapella now and show you how we find that relationship again. The next time I'm playing my track, go into the related tracks icon on the right. Rekordbox will present a list of tracks that match BPM and key by default, but we want to find our acapella. Go into the settings, uncheck BPM and key, and check matching. Our acapella now appears in the list, ready for us to load. A well-placed acapella can really lift a track and get the dance floor going, but are you really a DJ if you don't have an air horn sample? If you like to scratch or just want a cool sound to play before a drop, I definitely recommend having a few samples on hand. You can load these directly to your software's sampler if you want, but I prefer to have them in a playlist so I can add extra effects or scratch them if I want to. What if you could hire a creative consultant every time you got stuck for inspiration? Now our library is tagged and organized properly, we can hire Rekordbox to help us create playlists. Let's pretend I'm going to be playing a set at a bar full of bankers. Create a new playlist by right-clicking, create new playlist, and we'll call it Banker Bangers. In my newsletter, I've written about how it's a good idea to start with the end track of your set. Once you know where you want to end up, it's easier to figure out how to get there. I know my set's going to end at 2 AM, so I want to end on a bit of a banger. This track always goes down well with capitalists. I call this the seed track. Now, I'm going to use Rekordbox to help me work backwards from this track. I primarily mix via key and energy, so I'm going to use that as the guiding force for my set. To do this, we need to load our ends track to the decks, and make sure to select master. Click the related tracks icon on the right. Go into settings, and make sure BPM and key are selected. Because I want to filter down by energy, I want Rekordbox to suggest to me anything that's 4 stars and above for the track that comes before our final one. We can now see a list of tracks that match that criteria. I'm going to throw a few in for the last part of the set. Let's now work on the middle part of the set where we want more of a medium energy. Go back into related tracks, settings, and set this to 3 stars and above. Unfortunately, there's no way to actually see the rating in the related tracks section, so you have to do a bit of filtering afterwards. Because we've worked top to bottom, we've got our end track at the start. To swap that, just click the number icon here to change the order of the playlist. Of course, this is just a starting point, and you'd have to be insane to let Rekordbox plan your entire playlist. I'll often sprinkle in other tracks I know I want to play, and I'll also adjust the criteria to match other things like year to make sure I'm playing more recent tracks. But it's a great way to overcome that creative block and get yourself off the starting line. We've now got high quality tracks in our library, can find them easily and use them to create amazing sets. But there's one final step DJs get wrong, and if you don't get it right, everything we've done so far will be pointless. From the age of 8, I'd always wanted a Porsche. I saved and saved for 25 years. One day, I finally had enough money to buy one. It wasn't brand new, but I didn't care. It was one of the best days of my life. I loved owning it, looking at it, and smelling the leather and my own farts. But over time, as it got older, it started to run more like a person in fancy dress at a marathon. I was lax on maintenance. It ended up costing me thousands to repair, and I had to sell it. Without regular care, your library can get old, creaky, and unusable, just like the metallic love of my life. But with a few simple steps, you can make sure it stays in tip-top condition. Sometimes a track makes it through your curation process and into your library, but then you play it out, and it just doesn't work. I've spoken before about having a poop tag that you can add to these tracks to mark them for termination. To create this, open the tags menu on the right hand side. Change one of the headings to something like toilet, and then add a poop tag. The easiest way to stay on top of this is to create an intelligent playlist. Right click on playlist, do create new intelligent playlist, call it smelly turds, change the first drop down to my tag, leave this on contains, and then choose poop. Click OK. As an example, I've tagged a few tracks here where I've got duplicates, the quality wasn't good enough, or the edits were wrong. All you need to do now is select all of these, right-click, and remove from collection. But the problem is this won't get rid of the actual music files on your computer. I whipped up a Mac shortcut that can do this for you and free up some of that precious hard drive space. Here's how it works. Right-click on your Smelly Turds playlist, do Export Playlist to File, and then choose the second option, the M3U8 playlist. Save it somewhere on your computer. Now open the Shortcuts app on your Mac by pressing Command and Space and typing Shortcuts. Run the Delete Files from Playlist shortcut. Browse to the playlist we just saved from Rekordbox and select it. You'll get a warning, click OK, and all your tunes are deleted. You can grab this shortcut along with loads of other tools and tips to help your library management process by subscribing to the newsletter. Link in the description. Another big problem I had in my old music library was bad file quality. Some of the MP3s were about 20 years old, and they were in 128 kilobytes a second, which isn't good enough to play out. There's an easy way to find these files. Go to Collection on the left-hand side, right-click on a column heading, choose Bitrate, and then click the column heading to sort it. Anything less than 320 kilobytes a second you probably want to remove or find a better quality version. I've got a few older tracks in here that I need to sort out. Sometimes I come back to this task later, so I want to put a color on them to keep track. If you can't see this color heading, right click on the column headings again and choose color. Make sure the bad quality tracks are highlighted, press the eye icon, and at the bottom of the window you'll see this color drop down here. I generally use pink for these, but you can use whatever you want. To make things easier, you can also rename pink to something like bad quality. Go into Preferences, Advanced, Browse, then double click on the color you want to change. If you want, you can also create an intelligent playlist to easily keep track of these files. All we need to do is right click, create new intelligent playlist. I'll call it bad quality. Change the first drop down to color, leave the second one as equals, and then choose your color tag. Now we can come back to this playlist whenever we have time and try and improve the quality of our files. In my old library, there were probably thousands of tracks that I'd never actually played. Your taste can change, and sometimes tracks just never fit in your sets. I make sure to regularly keep an eye on these tracks so I can send them to the OAP home. I do this with another intelligent playlist. I'll call this one Grandkids Never Visit. In the first drop down, choose DJ play count. Leave the second one as equals and the third one as 0. Now we need to add a second rule so it only matches tracks we added over 2 months ago. Click on the small plus, change the first drop down to date added, change the second to is not in the last, then put in a 2 and change the final one to months. If you haven't played these tracks after 2 months, you're probably never going to. So pop them on the bus and send them off into the sunset. Even after following these 5 steps, creating playlists and staying on top of my music management was taking me too long. That's why you should watch this video next where I show you how to use Rekordbox to save time and manage your library for you.